I'm pushing a bit of the gears. So essentially when we say, or when we read these fact sheets, or when we read these, some of these funds are saying we are client centric, it's actually, how do you, it's not a definable measure. It's just a statement that we say it's client centricity. But how do you plan to define it or benchmark it? Because there is no way of actually quantifying it. If we can take this opportunity, since with all our tech stack and all the efforts we have taken together, if there was one way, if you could benchmark yourselves and the kind of democratization that we're doing, how do you want to benchmark your client centricity?
Sanjay, so I think the interesting, because every firm, right, wealth management firm will say they have expertise.
Correct.
Everyone will say they're transparent.
Correct.
Everyone will say they're ethical. Everyone will say they're client first,
Correct.
right? And we've had clients ask us exactly this and exactly this kind of language. I've heard
Yes.
this 10 times, client first. I've heard this 10 times, right? How are you different? Now, I think that is really where people, the moment they see the RMS, it becomes
Hmm.
blazingly. Now, I'll give you a few examples.
Please.
We sell insurance. We sell insurance across the board via sub-brokers or Policy Bazaar. Every insurance product available can be sold. It is a
Hmm.
well-known fact that commissions in the insurance space are substantially higher, and which is why so much insurance is wrongly sold. We have a public-facing blog that
Hmm.
has in red, in green, types of life insurance. Term insurance is in a green box saying these are the reasons why term insurance makes sense. But the
Hmm.
moment you get to an endowment plan, a money back policy, a ULIP, we have big red boxes which sit
Hmm.
and indicate these are the problems and these are the reasons that these don't make sense from an investment perspective.
Hmm. 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 Hmm.
This
Hmm.
is an example of kind of advice being driven from research, not from sales.
Hmm.
Another example, right? The moment someone asks us this question, all we do is we can just open up the RMS, and a lot more people are aware about mutual funds as compared to PMSs.
Right.
It's a very well-known fact, not just in investments, in any industry. A smaller, unrecognized firm would have to pay more to distribution than a very large, well-known brand.
Hmm.
We can just sit and look at the firms and look at the way we've rated them. And you see the much larger, much more recognized brands, the firms which have performed a lot stronger, right? All of these have higher ratings. If you go and look at our 1 and 2 star rated funds or firms, these are all firms that are unknown, which haven't been around, don't have as much of a track record. Now, that is where incentives can be much, much higher, right?
Hmm.
You have much lower incentives when you're dealing with these larger. The moment you look at that, it becomes clear.
Hmm.
There now, because of the amount of information that we have, and because of the way that information is being delivered, we
Right.
have 5, 10, 15, 20 ways of being able to substantiate the
Right.
fact that we are actually putting the investor first.
Hmm.
One of the things, Sanjot, about our process, you had asked about, you've got some money, how do we sit and identify the right
Correct.
fund for you?
Right.
Uh, the standard experience in wealth management is you say, I've got 3 crores. The private banker will say, these are these great 5 funds, which are great for you.
Hmm.
We don't, as a practice, get into recommending funds until we're not into our third consultation. The first two consultations are just around trying to understand the investors and the investors'
How about
requirements.
how about let's play this out? Let's make this into a proper example so that we can also understand this, and I also understand this better, versus how a traditional would perform and how we would perform. Let's say I had 3 crores, and how would a traditional, firm, what would be the process like? Could you just walk me through in short, and then, because that would be then a proper benchmark for us to see that, okay, this is how we are doing it differently, and this would also help us understand it. So, what would be a traditional approach, and how is it specifically that we have changed that?
Sure. So, Sanjay, I won't get into the expertise and the
Of course,
transparency that we've already
of course,
discussed.
that we have
Right?
already discussed.
Yeah. I'm only
Yes,
talking about the client journey. Uh,
exactly.
right now, when a client meets a private banker, from
Right.
most traditional institutions. Very often in the first discussion, you fill out a risk profile.
Mm-hmm.
You'll have a discussion around certain financial goals. You'll
Okay.
have a broad discussion around certain asset classes. And
Right.
very much within that first 1 hour discussion itself,
Mm-hmm.
there would be these 4 or 5 funds that are kind of recommended,
Mm.
right? That is the way the industry normally operates.
Right.
We've developed something called the IME investment mandate, which
Mm.
is a very clearly defined process
Mm.
that takes what I know to be best practices of wealth management or private banking from global examples and what is available for ultra high net worth individuals in India. We've taken those best practices, integrated that with some of the best practices of an investment mandate that fund managers use before they launch a fund.
Mm-hmm.
And that is our kind of process of trying to identify what are the best funds for you. You've got 3 crores, you need to invest. I I need to have your investment mandate developed in order to be able to accurately answer that question.
Mm.
What goes into the development of an investment mandate?
Right.
There are multiple elements. The
Yes,
first
please.
is the development, and all of this that I'm talking about at IME Capital, we do all of this absolutely free, no commitments whatsoever,
Mm-hmm.
before as part of the kind of initial consultation process.
Right.
So we develop a financial plan for the investor. The financial plan is extremely important because you need to correctly identify the investment horizon of an investor.
Right.
You meet an average investor and you ask them the investment horizon, they'll say 3 to 5 years. You
Right.
build a financial plan, very often you realize that the actual investment horizon is 15 to 20 years. Now, the
Mm.
right investment approach differs very significantly from a 3 year to a 20-year kind of investment horizon. We try to ensure that we have that understanding correct.
Mm.
When we do our risk profiling, the standard industry is you run a risk profiling and you get a risk profile score. There's actually two different risk profiles. There's something called a risk-taking ability and there's something called a risk appetite. And these can
Mm.
sometimes be at polar opposites of each other. Someone could
Mm.
have very high risk-taking ability, but virtually no risk appetite, or
All
vice
right.
versa. You have to
Right.
understand both of these elements separately. This is what AMI Capital, when we do the risk profiler, we get 2 scores to get to your final score. Now,
Interesting.
the investment horizon helps determine the right asset class. The risk profile helps you determine the right category.
Right.
Now, what very often we've experienced is that investors, the private banker speaking to the investor, getting a few examples, a few understanding, and then saying these are the right funds. We have come across when we're doing the investment mandate, the third part of our investment mandate, which is showcasing to investors the entire investment universe to
Mm.
shortlist the categories that are the best fit for them.
Mm.
That part of the process actually exposes the investor to all the different types of options that exist. In
Mm.
structures, you could invest in a mutual fund, a PMS, and an AIF.
Mm.
When is an AIF better than a PMS? When is a PMS better than a mutual fund? When is a mutual fund better than the other two?
Mm.
Right? There are
Mm.
specific nuances of each of these. Different asset classes, equity, debt, hybrid, global investing. With equity, sub kind of categories of funds.
Mm.
There are two shortlists for a particular investor. What are those chosen? What are the specific categories that make the most sense? Now, that
Right.
is what we do as part of investment mandate at Handicap, which is use the risk profile, use the financial plan, use other preferences and beliefs to actually shortlist from a very large investment universe the specific structures, asset classes, and categories that are relevant for that particular investor. This becomes the mandate. And on the IME RMS app, the moment a mandate is created, there's actually a view where the investor will only see information related to his mandate. So you
Mm.
aren't getting lost with overwhelming information about funds that have no relevance for you. This process takes about 2 to 3 consultations.
Mm.
And it's only after you've kind of gone through this 2 or 3 consultations to build out this mandate do we really actually get into, these are the 3 or 4 funds that are relevant. I think it's just a question of attention to detail and really focusing on a more consultative approach towards building on portfolio.